Today's presentation, I'm going to focus mainly on an attorney registration as well as the legal org administrator registration, and then everything else is basically the same. But those are the two key players in your firm or your agency. So I just want to go through those two things so that you have an idea of what you will do, and then it might be a little seamless for you to go through the process once we start in November. So I am going to start with registration process for an attorney. As I'm going through the screens, you'll see that some of the things that I use for testing pre-populates, but just ignore that. We're going to try to create new records for a new attorney and a new legal org admin person. So my first step is when I went into the website, I will go to the login register button, or I could use it from here that I want to register for public portal. And then where it says don't have an account, so I know this is going to be blank for you, but your first instinct is going to be to try to sign in with your email address, put your password. That's not what you should do, because this would be the first time that you're signing on to the public portal. So you have to sign up now. That would be your first step. So I'm just going to use some test email addresses that I've created. So my first verification code is going to come to that email that I'm sending the verification code to. And once that is sent, I have to enter the verification code. I will see it in my email. I know there was a point during our last implementation where everybody felt like the email went to a black hole, but the email will come to the address that you just entered. So from that email address, you put in the verification code. And then once you verify the code, you make sure you note what email address you used, because it has to be that email address. So I'm going to put in my passwords. Please remember your password as well. All right, so now that I've entered my information, my name as I want it to appear, as well as my password, I'm going to create my user record. There is a multi-factor authentication that must be done. On my last session, which was earlier this morning, a question was asked about a phone number, if that phone number could be a landline, and it appears that it can be. You could, because this also says it could be a SMS, which is a standard message, or it could be by phone. And if you do by phone, it should call you and then give you the number for you to put in for the authentication. This is important because I know that some of the firms had a issue. Some of the staff members had an issue about using their personal cell phone numbers. It's not, the court isn't like using it for any other reason. You're just authenticating. But an attorney did raise a point earlier in the session indicating that, the concern is more so your phone number being out there somewhere. Anything happens on the internet. So if you're not okay with using your cell phone and you want to try using your landline in your office, as long as it's a direct line where somebody could pick up and somebody could get the authentication code, that is fine. You could try to do it as you see fit. Today I'm gonna use my cell phone number, and then once I get the authentication code, I will enter that, and then you'll do the same. Once you get the authentication code by phone, you could do the same thing. So once we've multi-factor authenticated, it brings us to this screen. It's something where it tells you, let's finish setting up your user account. So this is the name. If I wanted to say, oops, I made a mistake and I wanted to put a T here, I could resave that so that, the name is saved if I had like a typo or something. If there is no change that's needed, I don't need to do save again. The user type, this is going to be important. Please make sure that you're selecting your appropriate user type. So if I am the attorney, I need to select that I'm the attorney setting up. And even if your LOA is doing it for you, it doesn't matter as long as the attorney record is being set up as an attorney. When it's the LOA, we're going to do that in a bit. We're going to create a LOA, which is a legal organization administrator, your managers, whomever that may be. Your attorneys could serve as a legal org. So the attorney would have kind of all the rights in the organization. If your administrator, it needs to be multiple people. If you want to have 4 people as administrators, that is fine by the system. It's not going to stop you from doing that. And then any other users, if none of these user type applies, then you just need to skip the step. So your regular support staff, secretary, the non-legal org people, you just need to skip the step and set up as a regular user until you could be pulled into the organization by the administrator. So we're going to select attorney because this is an attorney that we're setting up. The attorney records require that you put in your associated bar ID number. So you must know that. You must have a bar ID number. There were some questions on earlier sessions regarding pro hack attorneys and your specially admitted attorneys. Those numbers are provided by Bar Admissions Office. So although it may not be numbers by itself, the pro hacks have PHV, and then the special admissions usually have a S before it. But for the most part, you must enter your bar ID number here as the attorney, and that is important so that we could, match you to the system that you're currently using. The reference file is also required. So what's going to happen here is that to avoid just any John Doe trying to get into your organization, we are going to provide you with a form that you should have filled out and attached to this section just for validation. The form is going to be pretty simple. Just maybe the attorney, the firm, bar ID number, some signature to say, yes, we're allowing Tamara to be a part of this firm. So that will be provided shortly. Test documents. So that's going to be provided. And then you're going to attach that and submit your requests. Once your request is submitted, it comes to the court, and the court is supposed to be reviewing your requests and checking that same reference document to be sure that you are supposed to be a part of that firm. While you're waiting for the court to approve you, my suggestion would be to stay logged in, go through all your tabs, make sure you have everything completed. If you don't do anything else while you're waiting, I suggest that you click on notification preferences and make sure that you indicate your application preference. It must be, the application is this system. It is, you need to get notifications through the application. So the application is the system. If you don't have anything checked, you're only going to be getting your notifications by emails. And as you can see, some of it is like deselected or it's grayed out. So my suggestion would be for the first couple weeks until you could get accustomed to the system and get accustomed to the upgraded functionality, I would select all in the application. If 3 weeks go by and you realize that I really don't need a filing received notification, because I know a lot of the attorneys did not want to have that in the beginning. If you don't want to have it, you just deselect the specific things that you don't want to see in your notification tab. But like I said, until you could use the system a little bit, my suggestion would just be to save that, you want everything. And then you are free to go back into your profile and make the change after. While we're waiting for the court to accept, you're only granted access right now as a public user. When you're granted the access, you'll see that this changes. And if you miss in the beginning when I did it as an attorney and I didn't skip the step and I walked through the process and I said, oops, I didn't fill that out, I also have the opportunity to go to user access in my profile and just request attorney access. So if I missed doing it in the beginning where it said, let's finish setting you up, and for some reason you got distracted, but you're still logged in, you could just go to user access and then submit a request for attorney access. Of course, if I try doing it now, it's going to tell me that I already have a pending request and, wait until it's reviewed by the court. So at least that gives me a little heads up like, okay, yes, I did submit it. So on the court side, I'm just going to show you quickly what that looks like. On the court side, this is what is received by the court for this attorney trying to become a user on public portals. So the court staff will manage this queue and go in and try to link you to your current index entry. So if your bar ID number that you put down and you have in your reference document, if we check both things and we look you up in the system under that bar ID number and we realize, okay, yes, it's the same attorney, we would just add you and link you to that entry. If you're new and we don't have anything for you, we need to, put in all your information. We'll probably get some help from bar admissions to make sure that we have your attorney type and status properly noted, and then we would update the information that's so all of these are required fields, and then we just save you as a new attorney in the system. We will verify all of this information, though it's not just going to be a guessing game. So we will accept you in as an attorney user. Once you're accepted, we are going to go back to the attorney side and you will see that the notification did show up. It's in red. So it's something new that's saying that you have a new notification, and then the notification is that your user request was accepted. You could mark it as red just because okay, I'm already now a user. As you can see, when we were in the basic view, we didn't have some of these tabs on the left hand side. Now that I am registered as an attorney, I could see my work tab as well as my create tab. So this would be a little different. The regular public user will not have this this option. They would only see the basic information where, and they too could request like a case access. So if I'm supposed to see something and I want to request a case access, I can. And that would be verified by the court as well. So this is the attorney's queue. If I want to file something, I would go to my tab that says new filing. Although it says new filing, just know that that's just the language. I'm not sure that we could change that, but it is not just new filing, meaning a new case. You need to select that if you want to file something, period. So if you want to create a new case or file an existing case, this is where you would choose that option, and the attorney could just go ahead and file. So if I'm filing on an existing case, this would come up. The guided entry will probably, I'm not sure, we have a lot of work to do to get our configuration straight for this upgraded version, excuse me, but the guided entry may be available for you to at least walk through a guide by guide step. But for most of you who are proficient in the use of the system, the electronic filing part has not really changed. So I would suggest just doing your manual entry. If you want to try doing the guided entry, that's fine. But it will have, it may give you like some scenarios and some suggested ways. This is not available, like we haven't configured it yet. So we're hoping to get that done, if not by go live right after. So we're going to just do the manual entry for now, because like I said, it has not really changed. We want to file something specific. And you could just type like I just did. I just typed MOT and it kind of brought up the category of motions. If I wanted to do something else, I could do that. Summary, it just gives you a summary of, hey, this is what you're attempting to file. Does everything look correct? And then you could proceed to create your filing, because you just kind of was nudging the system, hey, this is what I want to file. So now that you verified all of this, you could create your filing. and it gives you a little summary on the right hand side. It tells you that your record was successfully saved. If you're doing an existing case, this verbiage, and it'll be important for you to read everything, especially through the first couple of days, so you could kind of know what pop-ups and what, what does everything mean, because everything will be guided by some type of direction. You'll have something here for you. This is basically telling you that you're filing on an existing case, so you really shouldn't need to add a party. But if you do, and let's say it's you know, intervening complaint, whatever it is that would allow you to file it as adding a party, then you can. But the default would be to skip this step if you're filing on an existing case. So once you skip the step, you will be directed to this page, which is basically the same as you had before. When you continue, this is where you're going to actually add your docket entry. So it's a little different. The little pop-ups are a little different. The way that you're sliding through the screens are a little different, but it's the same thing. So if I wanted to do a specific motion and I wanted to attach my file, I could do that. If I want to put a comment in here, I can. And then, so this little portion I know is going to catch a few people. It says finish, and finish only means I'm finished with this specific document. I'm only finished with this specific docket entry. So it is basically telling you, review the summary of the document. Maybe you want to open the document here to see, oops, did I really attach the right thing? You could do that. You could click finish, and even if you do finish, you could go back, but this would be just kind of putting it in like your cart. We don't have that add to cart language anymore. We don't have add associated filing. As you can see, the screens are kind of just going screen by screen. If this was a new filing, the filing fees would be configured here to automatically show what the filing fee is for that case type or that type of filing that you're doing. This would now replace your add associated filing. So this was one of the things that I know a lot of firms struggle with, and a lot of users struggled with, adding the associated filing. So if I'm not done with my motion package that I'm sending to the court, which is my motion, my proposed order, my 4 exhibits, I shouldn't continue. I need to add a docket entry. So it's important that you not try to do it one and try to go out, come back in. It's just going to cause you to be a little more stressed out with the process. I think it's much easier to just add your docket entries as you go by. So if I want to add my proposed order as part of this same filing, that's what I would do. Add my proposed order. And then the same thing for my exhibit. I'm not done yet. I need to do my exhibit. I just typed the first 3 letters. It comes up. Attach my exhibit. We should not have the issue of what we had before, which was a lot of people had issues with like the size of the document or the system erroring out because you try to add the exhibit, the proposed order, the motion. That should not be happening anymore. We're hoping that you are able to, add all your exhibits. If it's something that is voluminous, we know that there is a size limit that will carry over to this portal. It's not going to change. Your size limit is the size limit. But for the most part, if I add 4 documents here, 6 documents, it should allow me to just continue adding my docket entries. And then when I'm done with my docket entry package, as you can see, it defaults my motion as my lead filing. So everything else is associated, and I didn't press continue. I just went ahead and add the docket entry. So I'm going to click continue because I'm done with that. The service details, there was a question on my previous session that asks about adding people here to the service recipient listing. It's no longer that you don't have that screen anymore that allows you to add the service recipient. The public portal is pulling from CMS, which is our internal system. So it is the hope that everybody who is on the service listing is who you need to serve. So if you have 14 people here and you only need to serve two, then that is who you would select. If it's just one, if it's two, if it's whatever, but you don't have the opportunity to add a service recipient here. I did get a response back from the vendor, and unfortunately you can't add it here. I do have to kind of play with this a little more and get some feedback from the vendor on kind of one-off situations, because I know a few of you will have questions on the what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. So I will try to get some answers on that, and that would be something that we would put on the home screen for you to see. Okay, this, if you have this situation, then this is what you should do. For the most part, I think a few of you currently, what you do is, if you don't see the person, you would call the court and say, hey, I'm not seeing attorney McChain on, and he's supposed to be on this case. Could you double check internally so that he could be pushed in to the service recipient listing? So I believe once that step is done and we could push the person in, or add them, it shouldn't be an issue like where they're not being seen again in the future. I know currently that is what happens. The court adds the person, and then the filer goes back another time to try to serve that person, and they're not available as part of the list. But I don't think that should be happening. But like I said, if we are going to add some guide or some guidance on what to do if you need to add a party, we will add it on the home page. The e-service eligible is basically this person, is going to be a user in the system. They're eligible to receive electronic service through the public portal. So the public portal e-service it would serve as the default service method. We do have a way now, especially on the court side, for us to see that you were served through public portal, and then we also are able to have you see that in your My eService Received tab. So I'm just going to finish with this filing. You could choose public portal e-service. We know that if it's not an attorney that you're trying to serve, it'll probably be conventional, or you're trying to, use something else as the list. But for the most part, I think your default would be to serve amongst yourselves as attorneys. You'll be using the public portal e-service. And I urge you to do that only because you will be able to see it in your e-service listing. So once that is done, we're going to, the service is set. We're going to continue, finish submitting our filing, and then we would get some type of notification that says that your filing was submitted. There's a check mark. There's also a little summary tile that tells me what I submitted, when, and the reference number. So in the My Filings tab, I should be able to get a notification that says this was the filing. It is in a receive mode from the court. And then when, of course, it's accepted, you will get notifications as such. So we said, this list would, after a few weeks in this public portal, we know that your list would become long. All of your lists right here, your My Cases list, your My Hearings list, your e-service receive list, all of that is going to become a little long. So I urge you to use the filter on the side. There is a way for you to filter certain things. So if I only want to see the motions, this is probably not configured because we got to go through and configure all of this drop down option. So any place you see a drop down, that is the court having to configure that information to make it available to you. So this is being worked on, but just wanted to show you the filter options for every tab that you have on the left hand side. So I just got a notification that says my submission was done at 3:38. It tells me, and I'm able to view it as well. Then it also says the submission was received. Then of course, when the court approves it, you're gonna get one that says submission was approved. This would probably, again, become very a long list of options and things that you don't want to have to go through, so you could filter. If you wanted to only see the stuff for the month, then you may want to just filter your notifications for the month or for the day or for the week. So that's basically it as far as the attorney usage. You're going to be able to see everything on this side that is My. So if it's My Filings, it's yours. It's your cases, your hearings, all of that. I urge you to go through the profile. When you are set up, try to go through your profile just kind of one by one and the options to make sure that you're looking at the options that are available. This preferences tab allows you to choose a default court. Is not required because anything that's required has an asterisk. But if I only file in the Superior Court, I could just default my court to Superior Court. If I wanted to do that, it's not required. If I want to just double check all my information, if I wanted to add a carbon copy email address. I know right now you guys do it because the functionality for the support staff to see the attorney's filings weren't working. That wasn't working. That functionality wasn't really working well, but it is working now in this version. So I know that's going to be a good, happy moment for the support staff and the attorneys so that you don't necessarily have to create a carbon copy. But if you wanted to, it's fine. If I wanted to, anything that's coming to that test email and I want to copy somebody else, I could do that. If you want to still do that to err on the side of caution, you probably could do that. And you could add, I don't think there's a limit here on how many carbon copy email addresses you could add. But you should be able to add at least one or two so that somebody else gets the email. The other question that I got earlier today was if the service email address is now not required. So in current system, because some of the functionality wasn't working as is, we did require you to do your primary email address. Some of you did an alternative email address. Then you did like, okay, this is where I want my service to go. The vendor has advised that the service email is not required. So whatever you sign up with, that is where you will get your notifications. That's where you're going to get your emails. So I do know that there are a number of firms and agencies that use an email address where everybody in the office are recipients or distributing members on that email address. If you want to let all your users use that one email address to sign up, that is perfectly up to you. That's not going to be on the court. It's whatever email address you use, that's what's going to be, sent information. If you want to do the info at, your law firm and then or public portal emails, naming it something that you're identifying with the court. If you want to do that and have every user use that email address, that's up to you. The service email requirement is no longer. The service on your primary is the same now. It's equaling the same thing. So whatever you sign up with, that's your email address that's going to be used. On the court side, we will have to try to figure out how we kind of merge that information because as we do have it in the current, but if it's not, being used in the expected public portal come November, then we have to try to figure out how we're going to get that kind of meshed together. But for the most part, your sign up email address is what you will use to get your service. So, in your firms or agency, you'll have to be in charge of figuring out, okay, who's checking those emails? Is it going to everybody? Is it auto forwarded? You guys would have to set that up on your own. So that is our attorney user. We are going to now log out of this attorney record. And we are going to log in as a legal org admin. And I'm only doing that because the legal org admin is kind of going to be the person that takes the lead in creating your organization in the system, like whoever that is. If it's multiple people, it's fine. But this person must create the organization with the users and with the support staff that is associated to each attorney. So if an attorney has 4 legal paralegals that could file on his or her behalf, they need to be added to that attorney as support staff. So the two key players, like I said, the attorneys and the LOAs, your support staff register as a user, and that's really all they need to do until you could manage the organization and fit them in. So we're going to log in. We're going to register now as a legal org person. So once again, once I get the code in my email, I'm just gonna verify that code. And then I'm gonna do the same thing, remembering my password, making sure that you have that information handy for when you're logging in the next time. And I'm using my cell phone, but you guys, when you start, if you have some way of doing it in your office where a number is, a landline is what you'll be using, then it should work, because one of my persons on the previous session said yes, that they were able to, when they were testing, they were able to use a phone number and got the call. So this is the legal org person that we're gonna set up now. I am going to choose that I am the organization administrator. If this was just everybody else in the office and I'm not the LOA, I will just skip this step. I don't need to choose anything on this listing. I just skip the step and then I continue creating my user, my regular user. But because I'm doing the organization administrator, I'm filling that out as such. All right, so this is important. This screen that shows up as the organization administrator. We want to make sure that you are aware of what your current organization is in the system. For most of you, the LOAs, do manage your legal org, users and who's leaving and who's new. You usually manage that already, but there are some instances where like for instance, I'll put Department of Justice, where you may have to make sure that you're choosing the right Department of Justice option. So if I'm with the Department of Justice Office of Attorney General, this is what I should be choosing. So you want to be sure that you're also associating to an active record. My suggestion would be, if you're currently the LOA in your firm or you're not, either way, look at what your legal org setup is now. Maybe take a screenshot of that before we shut down eFile in November. Take a screenshot of it. Take a screenshot of what your name appears as, because there are some options where in our system we have a legal org listed and we may have 10 versions of what Office of Attorney General was prior, like in our prior system. Or this is a good example of another situation where maybe in our legacy system prior to 2020, this firm may have been named one thing and then it was renamed. So your active record most likely would have like your full address and all of that stuff. But you want to be sure that this matches what you are currently using. So my suggestion again is to just take a screenshot of your actual legal org, and you could find that in your legal organization screen when you go in, like to add your users. The LOAs would know what I'm talking about. But if you need help with that, just to verify who your active legal org is, then yes, please either reach out to us. You may want to try to do that before, so that you're not on November 11th and 12th trying to scramble to figure out what your legal org active name is. So I'm just going to associate myself to this test organization, and then of course attach my file that will also have some type of verification to say that I'm okay to be entered into this organization, and then I will submit my request. And again, once I'm waiting for my request from the court to come through, I need to make sure that my application notifications are on. So if you don't do anything else, like I've said before, please just go to your notification preferences to save that so that you could get application notices. And application notices means the system. So, you must be able to get it for you to say, I didn't get it. So you have to select what you need. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're just waiting. We're at the status of only seeing public view. So I'm going to accept this user in. I'm just for the demo purposes, I'm just adding a new person, but the court staff that's going to be assigned to help with this. It is something new for us because we never had this opportunity to like review the user link request and kind of approve you in. So this is going to be a little new for us, but we are going to use the reference file and all of the associated information to make sure that we're accepting you in the correct way. So we are accepting this LOA, and the LOA should get a notification that says your user request was accepted. I'm just gonna put that as red. For this, the LOAs, you're gonna have to log out and log back in. The registration process requires that kind of to refresh your role so that you're now, going to operate as a manager of the legal organization. So I'm just going to log out real quick. And this is not something you're going to need to do each time. This is really just for the initial registration. So now that I'm logging back in, now that I log back in, my tabs are a little different. My options are different. I am now seeing a manage organization tab. So those of you who are LOAs or the multiple LOAs in your agency or firm, until you log out and log back in, you're not going to see it. So I know we're going to get the e-file help desk calls and emails that says, hey, I registered, you guys approved me, but I don't see where I could go and manage my organization. But that is because you have to log out and log back in for it to refresh your role. So now that I am able to see this manage organization tab, the legal org person is responsible for bringing all the users under this umbrella. So whatever my firm is or my agency, for the larger agencies like the AG's office or the public defender's office, it is going to be a long list because I know you have multiple attorneys, multiple people, and each person has to be associated with the attorney. But once you're set up, you're set up. You shouldn't have to do it, multiple times, unless, of course, a user needs to be removed for some reason. The person left the firm. You just, do a remove highlighting this specific person, or if you need to edit their role, that's what you would do. But for the most part, this is your screen that you will be working from first. And then the inclination would be for you to say, oh, I want to add support staff. So don't do that first because you really shouldn't do that because you won't have anybody to add them to. You need to make sure all of your users are added. So just think of it as an umbrella. And then, you're the legal org, and then you got to try to add all your users in and then associate them to where they need to go, put the puzzle pieces together. The users who are your support staff and your secretaries and whomever else, you want to make sure that they did register and they did show you proof that their registration was done. They should have gotten something that says your user, your user request was accepted. I would suggest for the LOA, so that you're not pulling out your hair, that you have each user show you that and say, hey, where's your registration? Did you do it? So that you're not calling the court and trying to, figure out, hey, this person said they're registered. This is, who it is. This is their email. And then we don't see anything on our side because they were not registered. So for them to be added as a user, they have to be registered first. So if you want to add your users, you could go ahead and make sure that you're adding. I'm just going to add the attorney that I created just now. Where's my attorney? Okay, so my attorney that I added was this person's email address. So we got to know that attorney John Doe did a registration with this specific email address. You must know the email address, else you're going to be typing here forever. So this is the attorney that I'm trying to associate to this legal organization. Once I click next, it's going to give me some options. It just verifies for me this is the attorney's name, the username, their email address. I could provide them payment access. I could make them an administrator right here, and I could save. If it's only one or the other or none, you don't have to, because it's not required. You don't have to select it. I assume in most firms or agencies, the attorneys kind of have more flexible roles. So these are things that you may want to consider making them have. And then I'm just going to press save. So the attorney that I added is here. He has attorney rights, payment access. He is an administrator. And then the LOA is here as well as the administrator. So as many users that I need to add, that's what I'll be doing in this step. I'll just be adding all of my support staff, all of my attorneys. My suggestion to streamline it would be to add all of your attorneys first, add all of your users, and then you're going to start associating users to attorneys. So this attorney, I need to associate some support staff to be able to file on behalf of Attorney Jane. So I'm going to select Attorney Jane and select add support staff. So in this situation, I am going to have these specific people be a support staff for this attorney. As you can see, I selected like 3 people, and they could be a support staff for this specific attorney. If you have multiple support staff for multiple attorneys, it's fine. It could be the same people filing on behalf of the 6 attorneys. It doesn't matter. You could just make sure you're associating them to the right attorney, and then you're saving the record so that they do have the necessary access. So if this is me in real situation, I would go through doing all of my attorneys. I would take, every attorney and add the support staff that I need to add, one by one, kind of just go through, make sure everybody's listed. And then when those specific people log out and log back in, they will be able to see it on behalf of. So now that I've associated myself with the organization and I've done some of the users, I've added them to the attorney that they could file on behalf of. Let me make sure this user is added for chain. So now that I could, finish my umbrella, I'm done with everybody, adding everybody, associating everybody. I am now being able to see on behalf of. So I am the LOA, I am the support staff, I'm whomever that's logged in that has the access now to file on behalf of an attorney, and I now have this option. So if I click on behalf of, and I know that my list includes, I'm the paralegal for this firm, and I should be able to file on behalf of these 4 attorneys, then the 4 attorneys' name would appear here, and then you would choose who you are filing for right now. So it gives you a message, you are now working on behalf of another user. So I want to point out to the attorneys that the issue that we had before, which was your support staff could not see some of your filings, and you had to create all these additional plasters to try to get it done and have them see your work. That shouldn't be needed. I know this should be a great news for everyone that's using the system. It should not be needed anymore. The system intention is for LJ to be filing as Attorney Jane. So just a point out to the attorneys who thinks this is great. Yes, I don't mind it. Just also be mindful that if this person is seeing everything and your firm is set up as such where I could now see Attorney Jane's filings. I could see her cases. I could see the hearings. I could see the e-service that she received, all the receipts, because I am logged in as Attorney Jane. That's it. That's me operating as such. Just note that there is an e-service receive tab. So you will be getting served because the clerk's office will be serving you now. We have the ability to serve you. This is just a screenshot of what we are now able to do, where it takes away that issue that we had with orders not being received, orders, we don't know if the order was sent. I didn't see it. I don't know. And then we couldn't verify really on the clerk side without going through a very strenuous task and trying to figure out our queues. But now we have the ability to, on the docket, send the information, the order out. We could go back to that order and make sure that the person was served. We have details of the person. We have how the service method was. It's the clerks are going to be trained to automatically try to send it through the public portal e-service, and then the date of it. And then we also are able to see when you read it. So it does not say that LJ, which is your legal org, open it. It does not say any of that, but it does say that you read it at 9:55 and that you're now considered officially served with that document. So I am saying all that to say, as long as this support staff is logged in as you or logged in on your behalf, you must ensure that you come up with some mechanism of, okay, well, if you open one of my e-service and it's an order, then you guys would want to come up with something that allows the attorney to know, hey, this order was received by the court. So whatever measures you take within your office, that's on you. But I just wanted to point that out because I could foresee where, it's something where the LOA or the support staff opened it, and then we see a record of, yes, it was open on this day, and then the attorney probably wasn't the one that actually opened it. But the court is going to be using that as a proof that, yes, the service was done. Yes, it was, done through the public portal e-service. This is going to be very good for us because we could now do it on the docket. Before we couldn't do it directly from the docket. So that's one of the highlights. I think that's going to be awesome that the support staff could now see everything. You could see all your hearings that that specific attorney has, and, make whatever tracking of the hearings and stuff that you need to. There is a option in your profile that I wanted to go through. There's a payment method default option. So if I wanted to add a payment method, and because of testing, it appears that let's do this. I'm gonna log out. Then I'm gonna just log in as the attorney. Attorney. Just so you could see how the payment method default works. And this is probably going to be very good. I don't know if most of the firms do this already as far as how you use the payment methods for your office, but this allows you to just enter a default payment method once, and then everything that you file after that will be used from that, whatever that payment method is. So if it's a card, okay, so in my previous test, I did add one of these people to the legal org, and then now it's telling me that I do have a default payment method on file. But there is an option for you to add the payment method. So anybody filing on behalf of that organization or on behalf of attorneys in that organization, it would automatically default to that payment method. So when you're doing a new filing, it's going to be automatic that whatever that new filing is, whatever the payment fee is at the end, it's going to take from that card. It's not going to give you any options like checkout or add to cart. It's not going to do that anymore. If you don't want to do a default payment method, it's fine. It just means that at the end of every filing, you would have to add some type of credit card or whatever information. Some attorneys I know don't do cards at all, and then they say we'll pay in person. So that option, you'll just pay it in person. But it's pretty cool that you could add a default payment method and just keep filing, filing, filing. And then your receipts, of course, would show up in this receipts queue so that you have a way to track what was actually done. Just a little FYI, if you are going through in November and you notice that there are some options that you used to have in the drop downs and they're no longer there, then just report it. It could be that we intentionally took it out. It could be that it was unintentional and we didn't realize it. Because as you can imagine, the drop downs that needs to be, the options that need to be in the drop down, the court has to configure that. The court has to go and check to make sure all your case types are in there, all your docket entries are in there. So if there is something that does not show up, just kind of nudge us through the e-file help email address, and we'll try to monitor those and see what needs to be added. There was a question about on the public side of it, if the like when you do a case search and you go to a docket. So I'll just show that real quick. One of the questions in my earlier session was if their docket numbers would now appear on the docket, and the vendor is looking into that for me. So right now, even in current operation, we don't have docket numbers that's listed here. But the vendor is looking into it to see if that's something that is possible. So I know a lot of you use docket numbers as a reference point. So that was a question that was asked, and we're looking into that for you guys. So that is, let me look at my notes real quick to be sure that I covered everything, including any questions that we had before. So it kind of looks like I'm done with the presentation. I'm going to open it up now for, I'm going to stop sharing just to get us back on this screen. So I am going to open it up for any questions that you have now. We're still recording. So at the end of each session, if you want to go back and listen to what the questions were, you can. If you want to just type it in the chat, you could type your question in the chat and then I'll try to answer it. If it's something that we need to try to get you to answer to, then yes, I'll try to get that for you. Can the CC email be used as an alternative for that one email for the firm that is served with all filings once that email is added to the CC of the attorney? I'm not sure if I understand your question, but I believe what you're asking is what some of the firms do right now, which is they use a generic email address, info@whatever .com. So if everybody registers for that specific firm, I know one firm for sure, they direct all their users to use that specific email address so that everything that comes in, even if it's for attorney A, B, or C, everybody who's on that distribution list sees it. So if that is your question, if the copy email could be used as an alternative for one email, I'm not sure I'm following your question, but if it is something like that where you're planning to use a generic email, then yes, you would have to advise all of your users to use that generic email first. Because you don't want them using tamara.charles@VI Courts and then everything that's being served on tamara.charles is not being seen by everybody else. So if you want to use your generic, like a few of you have done right now, you can go ahead and use your generic emails as the sign up email, because there's no more like distinction between primary, alternate, and service email. There is only going to be one email that you're using to register. Do you have to enter the CC email every time there's a filing? No, because if you notice when I added that CC email, there was an opportunity for me to save it. And I could show that real quick. Let me share again my screen. Let me just share the screen real quick. So in my profile, if I did my contact card, if I added my CC email address, all I'm doing is saving that, and you don't need to go back there each time you're doing a filing. Just remember that some of this stuff is just to save you time on the filing end. You don't need to do anything after that. So my CC email address was already saved, so it should carbon copy once anything that was going to test Tamara 48, that should also go to this specific identified email address. So you shouldn't need to add it each time. It's going to be saved. Everything in your profile has a save option. I did not go over calendar subscriptions. Just so you know, this option is going to be available, but not right now, not in the next upgraded version. It'll probably be somewhere early next year. The intent behind of this is going to be where you go into my hearings and you have an ability to subscribe to that like calendar so that it could be put on your specific, like whatever you use. If it's Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, that would be able to be imported into your calendar. But for now, that is not available. So I'm not really going to go through it as much, but there is an option next year. Once we get this functionality, we will either maybe just send out a guide. I don't think we're going to do a demonstration on it. We may just send a guide to you, letting you know, hey, this is how you could use it. If you want to use it, you use it. If you don't want to use it, it's fine. And then now that this attorney has like support staff, you're able to see specific things. You know, I could see that this attorney has these specific support staff. It says forward all notifications to authorized support staff listed above. So I could do this, and based on that question that we just got in the chat, if it was something like this and you want to auto forward the notifications, you can. But to be honest with you, the issues that you guys had before where your support staff can't see your work, that's no longer. So as many measures you want to take. If you want to forward the notifications, you can. You could click it and say, yes, I want to save that. If you want to do the contact CC email address to err on the side of caution, you want to do that, go ahead and, do the carbon copy. If you want to say, okay, well, when you logged in and you're on behalf of, you should still see the person's filings. But the notifications, yes, if you want to get those, you could, opt to get it. It just this list kind of expanded to show you the support staff and my associated organization. So I think it'll kind of be up to how you want to operate in your agency or your firm. These are things that you want to start thinking about going forward so that in November, when we get you that form, because I'm going to try to send that form out before we start, so you have an idea of these are the requirements on the form, and you kind of just save it as a PDF. Please don't send it to me yet, because there's nothing we could do with it. It needs to be associated with your registration. So although I'll share the form with you, don't send it to me because I can't do anything with it. That form is really just a, save for you to save it, get it ready for when you're registering. You could just maybe knock it out in a few minutes. And based on the presentation, it's pretty user friendly. I don't think it's going to be an issue. So let me go back to the chat so that I could see what other questions we have. So I hope I answered you, Ms. Freeman, regarding the CC emails and the notifications and the service of such. So it is going to be a trial and error. A lot of it is new for us as well because it is a combined website. So we haven't done that either. So we are going to kind of be working with you to make sure that you're understanding just as much as we understand. Okay, another question is, how would the registration process work for a small firm with just an attorney and legal assistant? Would a legal assistant register as the org administrator? Yes, I would suggest that you do that. I think you both, the attorney and the legal assistant, should be on there as an administrator just in case the legal assistant is out, or opposite, meaning the attorney is out, the legal assistant needs to get in to do something. on the organization level. I think that you should both be added as an organization administrator. And I did offer this in the previous sessions. If you are a small firm, it's only you don't have a legal assistant, no secretaries, anything, and you feel that this may be challenging, I am offering myself to assist you with your registration. I am going to be, our IT staff, as well as the two clerks office, Supreme and Superior. We are going to be kind of overwhelmed that week where we're trying to get stuff up and running. But I trust that my staff would be able to handle that while I assist the smaller firms, or the firms that really don't understand what they're supposed to do. I can't do it for you. So it would mean that if you contact me and you really need some help to walk through it, you have to be ready with your information, your computer open. You got to do all the steps on your own. I can't do it on the court side, because I know a lot of calls we get is, can the court do this? Can the court do that? And we're not supposed to really be like messing with your organization, because that's something that you put together. But I am offering for that week, if you need some help, the smaller firms, to get it done. We could assist with that. Are the proposed orders to be filed in Word? Yes, that is a rule. So that's by rule, that the proposed orders need to still be filed in Word. In my demo, I didn't choose the Word version, but yes, I've tested many times with the Word, attaching the Word document, and it does work. You could start setting up your profile in November, unfortunately, because we can't do anything else. We're actually testing and configuring and doing all of that stuff now. So unfortunately, it is going to be during that go live period in November. So if you didn't hear me in the beginning, November 8th is going to be our shutdown day. That's usually what we call our go live day. It may be after 5. We usually try to do it so that we're not like hampering your filings. But if it is a situation where we got to shut down early in the day, we will send you an email from it might not say no reply e-file. Maybe we'll name it something different this time. Maybe it's public portal at whatever, VI courts. It's something to say it's coming from the court. So you will get notification that, hey, this is going to be what we're doing for the weekend of. We will allow you to file your filings through email. So Superior Court e-file at vicourts.org. And I'm not going to put stuff in the chat right now, because you are going to be supplied with this information. We will try to send stuff out in a volume to everyone, and let you know how you're going to file your documents. We will accept filings during that weekend. I expect that we'll be accepting filings in person, or you could just send it to the Superior Court e-file. We may have an end date, because we know it'll take you some time to set up your organizations and get people registered and getting to use the system, but it's not going to be a month. Just so you guys know, your registrations will be mandatory. You will have to register in a timely fashion. But for the week of November 11th to maybe the 15th, we will still accept filings. If we have to extend it into the next week, you will be notified. You will be, if you didn't get to register and get your organization set up, we'll try to extend that time. But for the most part, you could start setting up your profiles once we give you the green light. I'm hoping actually that we're able to send something out like November 11th, which is the holiday. And maybe some of you, if we get the green light and we say, yes, the system is up and running, you could go into it, then you could start setting up your profiles prior to that next work day. But we do expect you to be setting it up for that week, and then you could just file your filings by email. That'll be acceptable. Yes, Miss Spencer, that's fine. You could definitely just maybe the week of go live, you may want to just shoot me an email saying, hey, with a little reminder that I'm a small firm and I'm just wanting to get some help to set up, and that way I'll kind of track who I need to call out, or who I need to assist with the setup. I know a lot of you that are in the larger agencies or the AG's office, public defender, some of the firms that are larger, you guys have great LOAs that know how to set stuff up and know what to do. But if you don't and you need help, then the e-file help desk is going to be available. How would the support staff file a habitual offender information with the court? Just filing it through the e-file. I'm not sure. It'll be the same way as filing anything else through the e-filing. If it's something that you need to restrict or something that you need to mark as confidential, we do still have those options, those check boxes. And that is something I wanted to point out, and I pointed it out earlier, that those check boxes aren't necessarily functional. And what I mean by that is not because you checked it means that it would definitely transfer over to our internal system. It serves as a wave of the hand for the person who's reviewing that filing to say, hey, this person wanted this to be an emergency filing or a confidential filing. But for the most part, just follow up with looking at it. When you see that it's docketed, just review it real quick. I have a lot of paralegals that calls me and say, hey, we asked for that to be restricted and it's not. And then it's just a click of a finger for us to go in and fix it. But the check boxes are not always functional. So that's just a FYI. So Ms. Boland, it's basically the same as you would do any other information in the system, and you'll name it as such. You could put a comment in any of the docket entries. You could also put a comment. So that should take care of that. All right. Any other questions? Like I said early on, let me see if I missed any questions earlier. Okay, Attorney Colon, I missed that question earlier, but yes, there is no way to make that multi-factor authentication an email address. What I could say is that in the last session, we learned that it could be a cell phone address, a cell phone number, or a landline, or like a direct number that they could call you at and then give you the code. But in that field, the multi-factor, which is your second authentication, could only be a number. So I'm not sure, I know there'll be some little hiccups with that, and we're gonna try to see what we could do. But on the vendor side, we really can't do anything with that. It's not like that wasn't something the court requested. That is just what comes with the product. But one of my session attendees on my 10 o'clock session did say they tried it with a phone number, and just like, I guess with any other place you call, like a bank or anything, they call you, and then you wait for the code on the phone, and then you could just type it in. So, if there are issues in a firm or agency where, like a government agency, for instance, and nobody wants to use their cell phone number, then maybe a identified line could be used, and you say, okay, put in this phone number, and somebody has to be able to answer the phone so you could get the verification code. I didn't mention when you log in, the login stays as long as you're not logged out. So we've tested that you could log in. You don't necessarily need to log out. When you go back on, you should be the person that initially was there. So until you log out, that is when you need that multi-factor authentication and all of that. But if I'm at my desk, I get called away, I go for lunch, I come back, my system is still up, I'm still logged in. I shouldn't need to do any authentication again because I'm still logged in as whomever I was logged in as first. And those support staff that files on behalf of multiple attorneys, that's just something you just have to pay attention to see who you're logged in on behalf of when you're filing. I know that's something you just gotta pay attention to. That's nothing that we could help with. So the registration process, once you register, that's it. You're a user, you got accepted. That's it. You don't need to do additional registration. All you need to do is use the system. And that's more or less it. The videos will be available. We don't know when yet because my IT person and I got to go through and kind of edit the videos if there needs to be editing. But if I would urge everyone to more or less go through all the session videos, because what I discussed in session 2 yesterday may not have been at the tail end, of course, like during the questions, some of that may be beneficial to you if you listen to the questions at the end, because we kept recording all the way to the end. So once the videos are available, we'll do the same thing. We'll send out a mass email telling you that the videos are available, and you could go to our Judicial Branch YouTube channel to get them. And if it's a different repository, then we'll let you know where that is as well. But most times we put it on the Judicial Branch YouTube channel. So that is more or less it. Any other questions before we end? I know it's Friday. People want to get out on time. But for the most part, if you have a question before, the November busyness starts, and you want to ask some questions or you want to ask some guidance on stuff before we jump into it, please send me an email, or you could email the e-file help desk, and we'll try to get your answers prior to. I will try to share that form that I was talking about, the user request form. I'm going to try to share that, as well as the informal guide that we created for you to use in addition to the videos. I'll try to share that as well. So the more familiar you get with the steps before November 12th, then the better for you, so that your registration would be seamless. All right, so if nothing else, I don't see any other hands, then thank you everyone for joining. We had a good number of attendees in every session, so I'm glad that everyone is able to get that information as well as share it. That's it. Have a good weekend, and thank you very much.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.